se jako dobro ako sve uradimo na engleskom. Ali ako treba prevod, možemo da radimo prevod. Vaš izbor demokratski. Hoćete da ide sve na engleskom ili da Igu ili ja pomognemo po prevodu? Prevod.
Ne, treba. Koja je demokratija?
Could understand English, but okay. Good.
Yes.
So it's 10 years since I've seen. Nakon 10 godina vidio Tommyja sad, Palić koji smo uspjeli da vidimo. 10 years, we met 3 years before on the fest, and because there is a lot of young audience, they are always checking IMDb. And on the references to IMDb, there is, among a lot of things in your career, there is Ken Russell was on Belgian Fest. So it was quite impressive moment for you.
Well, it was very, great.
Znači, na IMDb imate mnogo referenci za Ken Russella, ali postoji jedna, kažem, bio je na festu, bio je na mnogo drugih festivala, bio je nominovan za Oscara, dobio BAFTA i mnogo druge nagrade, ali ta činjenica je ostala. So, let's go, maybe to pick up with the Tommyju, in the nutshell, da počnemo sa Tommyjom. When he said, seen this impressive cast list, Tina Turner, Eric Clapton, Elton John, Roger Daltreyem. Unfortunately, some people are missing because they passed away. No effects, no special effects. Poor Roger Daltreyem had a very hard time, went to the flames.
Yes.
And from point of view of nowadays, it's not very politically correct film.
No.
So, is it three chimpanzees meet George Orwell?
Yeah, something like that.
Pitao sam da su tri majmuna koje su streli George Orwell. But, Tommy was famous for itself, it was one of the first albums in rock and roll. The fact that you were kind of impressed and that your choice of music was different in the past, that you liked some other kind of music than rock and roll.
Yeah, I wasn't a rock and roll fan, but I thought this was, it was beyond rock and roll, Mike Townsend, Pete Townsend called it an opera, and it was as good as Puccini or, a lot of the classical composers.
Znači, ja sam mislim da je ovo kao druga vrsta rock'n'rolla, da su Mike i Pete Townsend napravili nešto što je možda blisko Puccini, Rossiniju i uopšte više opera nego što je rock'n'roll. But still, you picked up the Roger Daltreyem for Listomania, for Franz Liszt. So you your intention was to melt rock and roll with the classic music.
Yeah, well, Franz Liszt was in a sense the first rock and roll king. He was very popular with his audiences, and they treated him rather like a rock star.
Znači, Franz Liszt, po mišljenju gospodina Russella, je bio jedna od prvih rock zvezda i njegova publika ga je smatrala rock zvezdom u njegovo vreme. He was of the Hungarian Liszt fans.
Yes.
And there was a story, there was an anecdote that, he was competing with Chopin, of course.
Yes.
And, there was one little play that could be played only, with notes, and they compete, and Chopin couldn't play it.
I'm sure he couldn't.
Yeah. Because Franz Liszt finally put one nose to his nose. So it is legitimate anecdote. I do not know now trying to make any statement about nose of Roger Daltreyem. But anyhow, according to the connection with Listomania and Tommy, is when you now to get back to your beginnings. In nowadays, I think you're sick and tired of MTV because you announced MTV 20 years or 30 years ago, and you're probably fed up with those clips because you did it 100 times better. But you told me that you started in Southampton with films, putting films and the music separately.
Yes, well, when I was 12, my parents bought me a hand crank projector, and I used to give film shows in the garage in aid of the Spitfire Fund. The war was on, so I was getting money to shoot down the planes of the people whose films I was showing, because the best films were the best ones available on my little projector were Fritz Lang. So I was showing Fritz Lang films while his compatriots were raining firebombs on us. So it never occurred to me that films had a frontier, that great art was great art, whether it was German, English or Scandinavian, it didn't matter. So that's what started me off on films, German films, and I used to invent music for them, and I discovered that with the right music and the right image, the film had twice as much drama. And so this is what I used in my films, and the strength of the music together with the image has always been my forte, what I've been interested in. And hence when Pete Townsend asked me to make a film to his rock opera, I was only too delighted. Because it was about, I saw it was about false religions, and I often wanted to do a film on false religions.
Znači, pitanje je bilo, ne ću u kraćem prevodu, sublimisat ću kako može da uopšte gleda MTV, pošto je on citirao, pošto je vidio Tommyju mnogo toga. Oni sa 12 godina kao dečak u Southamptonu u garaži počeo na projektu koji se pokretao da prikazuje filmove. I to su uglavnom bili filmovi koji su bili dostupni, su bili nemački filmovi. Za to vreme dok je on prikazivao filmove nemačke, meni su bombardovali engleski, kao što znate. I on je sam izmišljao muziku i puštao muziku uz te filmove. I to je bio prvi taj kontakt muzike i filmova. A s druge strane, sad nasljedeće da kaže, on misli da tek u toj simbiozi slike i muzike se događa to čudo filmsko, ta snaga, i da je u Tommyju upravo prepoznao nešto od toga što ga je naravno napravi tu vrstu muzičkog filma. But, you know, Tommy and Listomania were not only films that you made. You have a lot of films made for BBC, which are less known here. But let's speak about, for example, Gustav Mahler, which was in Serbia, or some other composers that you...
Yes, you know, it's been my hobby through my life to latch on to, you know, composers, my favorite composers. And certainly in the, I have to put Tommy quite high up in my estimation of my best work. And the fact that it was inspired by rock music is, you know, all for the best. I also used my family and friends in it. I walked in at the moment, my daughter, Victoria, who was the 10-year-old girl who got kicked in the face. You know, so you can see my family growing up in my composer films. Oh, by the way, this is my wife. She's here to jog my memory, which is pretty bad.
Čuli ste, znači, pođemo od kraja, ovo je super do gospodina Kevina Russella i kaže tu je da pokupi njegove uspomene ako se on baš kao malo zaboravi. Ono što nisam trebao pa posljednjem pasusu što je bitno u prethodnom pitanju, on rekao da se bori protiv svih lažnih religija. To je bilo vezano za pitanje Tommyja. Ovo drugo, znači, Tommy je koristio, pokušao je da kao vrlo ličnu priču napravi i to da je uzimao i svoje člane porodice, ova mlade devojčice koja se pojavljaju, to je njegova čerka. Viktorija, tako da za njega to je jedan vrlo ličan film. But now to speak about...
Can I say here?
Yeah, of course.
I'm still making music films, and the latest one is called Boudica, and it features my wife, who wrote the music and also plays a queen, an English queen called Boudica, who was reigning in England in 61 AD, and she fought the Romans. She was the first English queen, and the last, to take up arms and fight. And she fought because they lashed her, and they raped her daughters, and so she got revenge on them. And I brought that film with me, and I hope to be able to show that to you sometime.
Pokušat cenzurišem jedan deo ovoga što je rekao Rasel. Znači, njegov gospođa je glumila u filmu koji se zove Boudica u 64. godini naše ere, kad to je bilo vreme rimske invazije na britanska ostrva. To je bila jedina i posljednja britanska kraljica koja se uspostavila Rimljanima i bila je zbog toga nastradila i nastaviti dalje bez cenzure, njene kćerke su bile silovane i sve što se dešavalo s tim, to znamo iz ovih ratova, to su užasne stvari. To je isto muzički film i gospođa Rasel je radila muziku za film, tako molim jedan aplauz za nju sada. I know that for the serious sort of the awards are not the measure of the talent, of course. But Women Who Love was something that shows turning point for the career, at least for the Hollywood standards. Tell us something about that and your cooperation with Glenda Jackson.
Yes, well, there's a sequence in the film where Glenda Jackson, I don't know if you haven't seen it, she hypnotizes Highland cattle. They're the English cattle with the huge horns, and they're terrifying, and they kill people. I don't know if you have an equivalent kind here, but anyway, we do in England, and I had them in the film. And it was the most difficult sequence to shoot because the cattle were terrified of Glenda Jackson. And whenever she went like that, she was supposed to be hypnotizing them. And they stampeded away from the cattle. So it's a very difficult sequence to shoot.
Pitao sam za najuspješniji film, kada sam za veliko autora značine njegove nagrade, njegov talent, ali Zaljubljene žene su bili najljepši program na američko tržište i film koji je bio nominovan za Oscar i Glenda Jackson se usrećila s tim filmom i bila je zanimljiva saradnja između njih dvoje. Postoji jedna sekvenca u filmu, postoji te engleska vrsta krava, kaže gospodin Russell da verovatno ih nema ovde, ni sigurno znao da ih nema, to su one krave sa ogromnim rogovima, gde Glenda Jackson ih točiše krava. I bio je problem se snimio sekvenca, pošto Glenda Jackson je toliko ispepadila jednu kravu da je krava bežala iz skade, tako da jedno su snimili scenu. Tako o saradnji s Glenda Jackson i sa kravom.
The men were also terrified of her. Especially Oliver Reedom. Yes, she can handle men as well as cattle.
But speaking of Oliver Reed now, because the freshest memory around the Tommyju, to cast Oliver Reed, he was always a kind of enfant terrible, troublemaker, not such a good guy. I had the pleasure of, he did one production in Serbia, so I met him. He did a film here, so he was not the nicest person to work with. But
he was.
He was, but he was kind of, pushing the limits,
Yes, he was pushing the limits.
So how you, to make more than one film with Oliver Reed, what was the challenge?
Well, you had to go along with him. You had to humor him. He wasn't the greatest actor in the world, but I devised a good method of working with him. And that worked for comedies and dramas, for films like The Devils and for Tommyju. Yeah. And he had a very certain look. He would look. And he would say to me, I mean, it was a mood. He could make a mood out of, you know, it could be a terrifying mood or a appealing, you know, he had these moods. So we devised a way of working, simple. He'd say, "What do you want, Jesus?" Call me Jesus, I don't know why. "What do you want, Jesus? Moody 1, moody 2, or moody 3? So he had 3 expressions, and they work.
So making 3
whatever film, he was brilliant. It's nice to have a method of working with an actor.
Znači, u zadnjih ženama se pojavio između ostalog i Oliver Reed i ja sam pitao, pošto imao sam tu priliku da ovdje snima jednu produkciju, Glendom Jackson, tako zvao film, i svi su se plašili ekipu Olivera Reeda, pa sam pitao kako je bilo saradnje s njim, ne samo na filmu Zaljubljene žene, Tommyju, nego i na osnovnim filmima koje radi gospodin Russell s njim. I on kaže, to je glumac koji ima raspoloženje 1, 2 i 3. I ako počete budete kao u raspoloženju Isus, kao što se vidi u filmu Tommyju, on ima to raspoloženje, pa onda menja facu i tako, kaže, ali kako u kompletno sadete i raspoloženja, to je apsolutno genijalno, to funkcioniše u svakom trenutku.
So I think the best method working with an actor, and I'm thinking particularly of Glenda Jackson, who is one of our greatest actresses, is to talk to them as little as possible. I was doing a film, a film close to my heart, by the great English playwright. A great English playwright. A great English playwright. No, he made. No. No. The great English.
50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Tell me a great English playwright.
Alan Bennett.
No. No.
We tried that.
No.
Ian White.
No. Yeah, you're getting close. Getting close. You're getting close. Bernard Shaw and great English playwright. Kipling, getting close.
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde.
I love Oscar Wilde.
Anyway, I was doing a film called Salome. Which is a nice picture, and it's a very difficult. There's some very difficult dialogue in it, and luckily I had Glenda Jackson. But even I thought, well, I wonder if she can manage. I'm sure she can. I better check. So we were going to do this scene, a very long, a lot of dialogue, great acting required. I was going to do this scene in the afternoon, and I thought I'll just pop in to her dressing room while she's having lunch and see if she's happy with it. Whoops. So, went, "Hello, Glenda." Okay. I just thought I'd drop in to see if you've got this very long scene, and I just want to know that you're happy with it. And I thought she'd be studying the scene, but she was reading a communist newspaper. And she was chewing gum and drinking a gin and tonic. And, she seemed quite merry, as one would, having a nice drink. And she said, "What scene's that, Ken?" I thought she'd been studying it all day. I would have. And I said, well, it's the thing with all the dialogue, and you know, you have, it's very difficult. Oh, that, I know that by heart. I knew it from the first day of filming. That's no problem. Now, that's the sort of actress or actor I like. Nothing's a problem. They can do it standing on their head, you know, and that's their job. So you expect them to be a good actor. I was going to do Tommy. I was advised by everyone I met that I was crazy. That I would have the biggest trouble with these people who were going to try and act, and that they were known for trashing hotel rooms. I was told I was mad to even attempt the idea of such an enterprise. But I thought, well, I don't care, I'm going to give it a go anyway. You know, they can't be that bad. And they weren't. They were the nicest people, the quietest people I've ever worked with, and they were as good as gold. They were absolute treasures. There was only one incident, if you like. There was a Sunday morning, and I was in Keith Moon's hotel room, and we were discussing a scene he was going to do the next day, and he was sitting on the window ledge, and below him was 100 feet below was a lovely garden, and I was sitting with him, and someone, a hotel porter, was walking across the lawn, and he saw Keith Moon, and he said, "Sorry, Mr. Moon, I meant to collect your telly. I know it's not working, and I was just coming up to get it." Keith Moon said, "No, don't trouble yourself. I'm sending it straight down." He picked up the telly and threw it out the window. And that was the only naughtiness I had on the entire film. We were shooting on a pier in Portsmouth, and it was a scene in a dance hall. It was supposed to be a dance hall in the holiday camp, and I wanted sort of mood, you know, just a bit smoky, to give atmosphere, and so there was smoke, and I turned to the prop man and I said, "That's enough of the smoke, you're overdoing it a bit." And he said, "Sorry, Governor, I'm not putting any smoke in the scene." And I saw the place was on fire. The pier, we all left the pier, which was by now in flames, and I was on the pavement watching it burn down, and the press turned up with their cameras, and I thought, do I look at the pier or do I turn my back? Either way, I'm not going to win, because if I look at the pier, the headline would be "Ken Russell gloats as he destroys the pier." If I turn my back on it, they say, "Russell turns his back on the pier he burned down." Couldn't win.